In this episode, we are going to talk about how to create app service plan and app services without app service environment. Before this, I have created another video on the same topic, but with the app service plan and the apps created inside the existing app service environment. The reason I'm creating this another episode without app service environment is app service environment is an expensive resource and everybody cannot afford that app service environment. In at least in V3, the latest version of the app service environment, the pricing was dropped and it is affordable, but still it is really expensive. Without the app service environment, also you can create the app service plan and apps hosted in a secure way, but you have to take care of more configurations. So let me bring into the lab scenario. So what I'm planning to do here is cut down the app service environment here, and then have the app service plan, one for web tier and one for app tier. And app tier app service plan is going to host all these APIs, and then a web tier app service plan is going to host the website. So you can host one or more websites here. Also, you can host one or more APIs inside the app service plan. So I've already created the app service environment before the session. So let me bring into the app service plan. So this is the existing app service plan I've already created. And inside that I have one website, and this website is attached to the app service plan. So there is no app service isolated environment inside the app service plan or the apps. It is directly placed inside the app service plan. So we are going to discuss what is exactly the app service plan, what are some of the key features of the app services, also some of the key features of the app service plans in a minute. So let me quickly delete these resources and recreate so that we will understand from scratch how to create these resources from the scratch. So I'm going to delete this resource. You can select the resource. You can say delete resource. So this will delete all the resources. So I don't need to care too much on the deletion because I already created the RM template script so that I can rerun for creating these resources. So that's the beauty of the RM template. So in case if you have missed any of my previous videos on how to create the RM templates, you can watch my another videos. So this is the same project I'm using throughout the series for creating the different resources. So if you have looked at my previous videos, I have created the resource group, created the VNet app service environment with app service plans and apps. And in this session, I'm going to talk about the app service plan, app services without app service environment. So the script is already created. Let me quickly see. So this delete might take some time. Meanwhile, we can go through the RM template script, which is going to be created as part of this episode. So this is a regular script, and I have added the custom tags. So I made another video on how to add custom tags. So the tags are something you will be using for the billing purpose. So you can add all the tags together here and with the parameter. And this is the resource group name. So it is going to use the function and read the resource group name. And this is my app service plan name. So I'm following the Microsoft recommended naming conventions for giving the names to the services. So this is the scoop. So I'm using the F1, which is the base free tier of the app service plan. So I'm going to talk about the pricing tiers of the app service plan in details. So this is the language. So default language, I'm using the .NET. And then this is the web app name, name of the web app, default name of the web app. And this is the location. And then this is how you can create the parameter variables here. So the variable used for the .NET runtime stack. And this is the resource section. Have the server farm, which is the app service plan, API version, name of the app service plan, and then school, the pricing tier, and also the custom tags attached. And the next I need to have add the website here and the name of the website. That website has a dependency on the app service plan, and also set up the properties here. So this is a simple script. So I normally take these scripts from the quick start, and quick start templates are really good to start with. And then you can modify as per your need, as per your project requirement. So this is the simple script for creating the app service plan and the website. So this is the basic template for creating one simple website along with the app service plan. In case if you need more websites, quickly copy the script and add more websites. So you just need to change the name of the website. I'm going to add more websites in the same RM templates in a minute. But this is the basic RM template with the parameter file. So I have 3 parameter file, one for dev, one for test, and other one is a production. And these parameter files are going to be in use in the Azure DevOps pipeline for provisioning resources for different environments. So which is something I've already discussed part of the RM template automation or in the previous videos. So let me see if the resources got deleted here. So if I go to my resource group, so the resource group is gone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this RM templates using the PowerShell file in the locally. So I use the Visual Studio Code for simplicity. It is easy to run instead of using the Visual Studio. So Visual Studio is comfortable for managing the solutions and keeping the files and creating the files. You can do the same even in the Visual Studio Code, but I'm just comfortable with the Visual Studio instead of Visual Studio Code. So either way, you can use this PowerShell file for running this RM template locally to make sure that the resources or the script RM template is working as expected, especially when you are working on the RM template for the first time. So you may want to test this locally and make sure that everything is working as expected, and then use the Azure DevOps pipeline for automating those resources. So that is the second step. So let me run this script. So make sure that you are in this particular folder. So I'm already CD into that particular folder. So let me run the file, PowerShell file. If the file, the RM template syntax, everything is good, then this PowerShell script will run without any issues. In case if you make any mistakes, the syntax errors, since this is a JSON RM template, so you should strictly follow the JSON syntax. In anything wrong in the JSON syntax, you will know while running the script here. So this is quicker. This is created the app service environment along with the website. Let me see, go to the portal, refresh the resource group. So this is the resource group. And inside the resource group, I have app service plan. So the app service plan tier I selected is the free tier, which is the F1. And then I have the app service inside the app service plan. So this is my app service. Let's quickly see the configuration of the app service here. So this says the .NET, and the .NET default, I think it is selected the .NET 4.8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to update the RM template script to upgrade to .NET 6 and also include the app service application insights and associate the application insights. Application insights is for monitoring the logs for this application. So I'm going to attach the application insights. So right now there is no application insights. So I will modify the script and then rerun the script to make sure that the application insights got created and some of the configuration for this website is updated. Like I want to upgrade this to 64-bit. And also in order to upgrade some of the 64-bit, for example, if you try to upgrade 64-bit, it will not allow because this is the free tier I selected, so free tier doesn't support. So I need to upgrade upgrade to the standard tier before upgrades the .NET runtime stack and also the platform 64-bit or any of these properties. For example, HTTP version, I want to make it 2.0. So those things will be done through the RM template. So let me quickly update the RM template. So I've already made the changes to make it save some time. So these are the differences between the previous one and the current one. So previously I have the pricing tier, free tier, which is the F1. Now I changed to basic tier, and then I also added the current runtime stack and the .NET Core framework, and also added the application insights. This website has the dependency on the application insights, and also added the app settings associated with the application insights instrumentation key. And then this is the update for the .NET runtime. This is a separate resource for the application insights. So if you see the type Microsoft.insights.components, that is the application insights, and I'm creating the application insights name same as the website, so that you will easily know that each website have one-to-one mapping of the application insights. So this is the updated script. I'm going to run the updated script and see the latest changes which we added. Part of this script will work as expected. So let me quickly go into the So I will rerun the script from the Visual Studio again and see the new changes are applied in the same resource group for the application insights and the other runtime stack. So script execution is completed, and the script execution updated these two things. So let's quickly go to the portal, and here is my resource group. Inside the resource group, now I should be seeing the new resource application insights. If I go to my app tier, application, app service, and app service configuration, or before that, let me quickly show you the application app service plan should be upgraded to the B1, which is a basic tier. And then if I go to my apps inside the app service plan, this is my app configuration. I have changed to .NET 6. So that's how you can modify your RM templates and rerun the script, so that you don't need to log into you don't need to come into the portal for doing anything explicitly. Everything can be done using the Azure RM templates. So in case if you are new and you don't know how to get the syntax of each of Azure services, so the easiest way to get the RM template hooked with RM template is just go to the Azure storage account, RM template storage account. So Microsoft managing these things. So if you go to here, you will have a different versions, and then you can search for the service you are planning to look for the RM template. Say, let's say I'm looking for the web tier, and this is the server farm related. So if you want to know, this is the bicep syntax, which is new. If you are completely new to the JSON format, JSON template, so it is recommended to start with the bicep instead of the JSON, which is the advanced version of the RM template. So now, since I'm already started working on the JSON syntax, so I can use the JSON, but either you can use the bicep or the JSON in order to create the RM templates. So this is the JSON syntax. So for example, if I want to know all other properties, part of the server form, and I can, so whatever I've added the very basic, but in case if you requirement force you to add more and more properties, so you can look for this portal and get the syntax from this portal and update your RM templates instead of making the changes in the Azure portal, so that you have the code in hand instead of losing. You can run the same code again in the QA and or test or production. So same thing here. You have a lot of resources, and you can look for any of those resources. If you are looking the syntax for server forms, we were talking about the sites, for example, in the JSON tab. So you can look into more details on, if you want to enable the HTTP 2.0, so you can say true with HTTP 2.0 enabled true. So that's how I will add this, copy this, and add it in my properties of the um, site config, so that when I rerun, I'm going to get the latest properties added into the service. So since my RM template is working as expected locally, I ran using the Visual Studio Code, tested, everything is working as expected. So in the next step, we are going to automate these RM templates and run these RM templates in dev, test, production via the Azure DevOps. So I've already made another video to deploy RM templates through Azure DevOps pipeline. So I can quickly, so I committed the code is already committed. So if I go to the Azure DevOps, I should be able to see the folder here. So this is the folder I have already created. And if I go to the pipeline, and this is my pipeline, so I already ran the pipeline. So if I click on here, published and consumed, so this folder will have the draft folder. So I'm not explaining the previous topic details here. So I've already discussed how to create the build and release pipeline for RM templates and automate it. I'm just making sure that my new folder committed is coming as part of the build here. So this is my RM template. These are my files. If I go to the release, so I need to update my release definition to add the new app service plan. So earlier I have added two RM template deployment, one for resource group and other one is for the virtual network. So I need to create one more for app service plan and apps. So I'm going to clone the task. So this is going to be for create app service plan. So I will be selecting the deployment scope is a resource group. This is my service principal. In case you are new for doing for the first time, so you need to create the service principal. This is my existing subscription. So I'm creating this for the dev resource group. The location is West US, and this is my artifact location. So I need to make sure that I need to select the artifact location, which is RM template, and then select the parameter file location, which is from dev. So these are the two changes you need to make sure that make in the existing release pipeline to automate using the Azure DevOps pipeline. So I have saved the changes. That is the only change. If I go to test, I need to do the same thing. So for now, I'll skip that for test and production. So I'll focus on dev. So let me create the release to make sure that this release is working as expected. So what it is going to do is, since I've already created the services locally using the Visual Studio Code, this Azure DevOps automated pipeline will override the existing services and making sure that the existing services are up to date. So let's take a look at the logs. So it's initialize the job and downloading the artifacts. So I linked this release pipeline with the build pipeline. So reading the RM templates from the draft folder. In the first step, it is creating the resource group. So this basically first validates and creates. So in the validation step, if it is already found, it will not create, or it is also incremental mode. I've selected the incremental mode. So if there are any new changes in the RM template, it's going to apply those new changes as part of this new deployment. So again, the virtual directory is already, if it is already created, it will just bypass. If it is not, if it is creates the new virtual directory. I think we don't have the virtual network. So now it is created the virtual network as part of this pipeline. Now the last one is the app service plan task. So every time you add new service, let's say you created the storage account or you created the database script, new RM template. So you need to make sure that the new RM template, the new task has been added as part of this existing build pipeline. So now the build pipeline is created successfully, release pipeline, release created successfully, and then it is started the test environment. So I have not created the app service plan in the test, but I think this is running with the resource group and the VNet. So if I go back to my apps Azure portal, refresh, you will get the VNet. I will get the app service plan, which is updated app service plan with the basic tier. And then we are going to talk about the details of the app service plan in a minute. So one more way to get the RM templates. So if you're doing for the first time, you can modify the changes through the Azure portal itself, and you can search for the export template. So you can look for the template, and this is the RM template script. So you can make the changes in the Azure portal itself and copy. For example, if I want to copy something from here, add it to your script so that when you rerun again, you will not lose any of those changes. So that is the another way to handle updating your RM templates up to date. So this is all about the RM templates, deploying the services using the Azure DevOps. Now, let me quickly go through the theory topics on the app service plan and app service environment. So I have not discussed the details of the app service plan and app service environment, directly jumped into the lab and created the app service plan and app service environment. But this is the entry point from the Microsoft portal to start the app services and app service plan and app service environment for understanding. So app services basically allow you to host the websites or the the backend REST APIs, or also the function apps. Also the good example which is going to be part of the app services. So also it basically manages the infrastructure. So it offers the auto scaling, high availability, and also supports the Windows and Linux operating systems. And also you can do the CI/CD using the GitHub, Azure DevOps, or any of the other Git tools. So let me quickly go to the app service plan before jumping into the app service environment. So this is the documentation from the Microsoft on the app service plan. So the app service plan basically allow you to host websites, APIs, mobile apps, and also the function apps. So this is like if you have experience in the on-premise, think of your server farm. So the server farm is collection of computing resources for supporting your workloads. So you will have the IaaS where you will create the virtual applications, virtual directories. So you can create the server farm in the IaaS. So it is going to be exactly the similar concept in the app service plan. App service plan, your pricing tier is going to be at the app service plan level. So when you create the app service plan in certain region, let's say you created a West Europe or the West US, all the services in that app service plan are going to be in the same region. So all these apps are going to be part of the app service plans. So you can segregate your apps into multiple app service environments. So I'm going to show you some of the best practices, how many app service plans you need based on the project requirement. So app service plan runs on the compute resources. These are the details at the app service plan level. For example, it has to manage the operating system behind the scene. It is a completely PaaS solution, platform as a platform as a service. So you don't need to manage anything at the infra level. Azure team will be taking care of managing those things, but you have an option to select whether you want to host it in Windows or whether you want to host it in the Linux when you create the app service plan. And you will also select what region this app service plan is going to be. So as I mentioned, if you have multiple apps within the same app service plan, all those apps are going to be part of the same region. So if your requirement is one application has a special requirement that it has to be in a certain region, then you cannot mix that app along with the other apps in the same app service plan. So you might need to create a separate app service plan. Think that way. So the number of instances you can select when you scaling out. So we are going to talk about the scaling up and scaling out. So you can have the number of instances control on the app service plan level. And also this comes with the small, medium, and large VM sizes and the pricing tiers. So you have the free tier, which is what I used, F1. You have the shared one. So free and shared, these two are actually shared kind of a resources. That means the underlying platform, underlying VM is actually shared with some other customers also. So when you want to host the application, so these are recommended for dev and test, not for the production, putting in the production. So for your production, so you can think of other pricing tiers. So the basic, standard, premium, again, premium has multiple versions of the pricing tier. So if you quickly want to go to the portal, you can look at the pricing tiers. If I select the app service plan here, so you can say scale up. Scale up is increasing the computing resources. For example, you have a standard tier. This is the basic tier. So this is the free tier. This is the shared one. So these two are going to be in a VM where the other customers can also provisioning their apps inside the same VM. So the VM is actually managed by Azure team, Microsoft team, but your services are going to be shared along with sit along with somebody else services also, wherein the basic and other tiers, like in a production environment, you can have the standard tiers or premium tiers. So even in premium, you have P1 V2, P2 V2, P3 V2. So all these are different pricing tiers. So depending on what you select, you see the difference between these two tiers. So this has the 20 the staging slots. So you can select as per your need. So you can see the difference between when you select the different pricing tier. So going back to the documentation. So the pricing tier basically determines what app service features you are actually looking for. Accordingly, you can select the whether you want the standard compute, where if I'm just doing the POC kind of things, it's okay to have the free or shared. But if you are putting in the test environment, so I would recommend this. And if you are going for isolated environment, so this is where the app service environment comes into the picture. So app service environment again has 3 versions. So we already talked about app service environment in details in a earlier videos. So these are the different pricing tiers supported as part of this app service plan. And along with that, you can have the some of the features included in the custom domain, SSL certificate, auto scaling, deployment slots. So all those things you can see here: auto scaling, staging slots, daily backups. So the daily backup, for example, here 10 times a day, but here 50 times a day. So that's the difference between when you select the different pricing tier. So some of the questions like, how does my app run and scale? So let's take a look at some of those details. So depending on the pricing tier you select, the scale is different. If you selected the free tier or the standard tier, which is actually shared infrastructure, so the pricing is going to be based on the CPU minute. But for other other plans, it is going to be depending on the number of instances. So you can have 1 instance, 2 instance, 5 instances. So let's imagine that you have the 5 instance of app service plan. All the apps within the same app service plan are going to have the 5 instance of app services running. So that's how the app service plan scaling works. So the another question could be, how much does my app service plan cost? It's depending on what pricing tier you selected. So you can look at the Azure calculator for more details on the pricing tier, but the free tier is completely free. In the shared tier, it depends on the CPU minutes, but the rest of the pricing tiers like basic, standard, premium, and also isolated. So these depends on the number of instances, and the isolated tier has the pricing tier depending on the number of workers you added, and on top of that some stamping fee if you are using the app service environment v1 and v2. But v3, the stamping fee is waived, and stamping fee is disconnected from the v3. So that's how the app service plan pricing tier. You can look at the app service plan pricing Azure calculator for more details. Some additional pricing tiers, for example, if you are buying the custom domain, so you need to pay for the domain registrar. Same thing with if you are getting some certificates from external, so certificate authority, you may be paying additional pricing for the certificate authority, things like that. So those are the kind of pricing details you need to understand when you're going for the app service plan. So what if my app needs more capabilities or more features? So it's all depends on what service plan is selected. You can scale up, or you can downgrade or upgrade. So let's say if my website need heavy traffic, is heavy, served for the heavy traffic, then what I can do is from the premium to premium 1 to I can go for the next version. So if the depending on, or you can set up the auto scaling. So that will be separate topic to discuss how the auto scaling works in the app service plan, scaling up and scaling out. So those are the two different things you should be exploring here. So scaling out is nothing but creating the number of instances here. The scaling up is nothing but increasing the compute resource power. So let's take a look at another question, like, should I put my app in the new app service plan or the existing app service plan? It's all depending on your requirement. So it is always recommended to have more apps so that you are fully utilize the computing resources. But in case these are the some of the requirements where you might need have the new app service plans created. Let's say the app resources app is resource intensive. For example, uh, you are hosting all the APIs together, but one of the API is the resource intensive. So you may want to isolate that into the separate app service plan. So other one could be, scaling up. So when you scale up, all the apps within the same app service plan will have to scale up. So, but if your need is only one app need the scaling up, scaling, auto scaling, then other apps not required. So it is better to keep the app in a separate app service plan. So also, because all these apps are going to be in a same region when you create inside the same app service plan. But if your application, one of the application requirement is to have a separate region, in that case, you need to provision in a separate app service plan. So these are some of the best practices, but this is only a few list, but depending on your need. So your app service plans, you may need to create a more app service plans. So this is all about the app service plan details. So we discussed app service environment already. Let's quickly go to the app services and what are the app service capabilities. So app service is basically serving the HTTP based request. Like you can have the web application or the REST API. So for example, this is the website hosted in the Azure App Services, and this is the API hosted in the Azure App Services. So these are the different kind of requirements you can have when you are planning to host your app services. So the languages you can write in a favorite language, like either you could be, your application could be in a .NET, or it could be a .NET Core, or a Java, Ruby, or Node, PHP, or Python. So you can write in your favorite programming language and host it into the app services. And you can also have, the Windows or Linux based environment for your app services. So it's not just the language support or the operating system support. It basically also supports the enough security, load balancing, auto scaling, and automated management, the deployments using the different Git tool like Azure DevOps, GitHub, and other capabilities. And also, you can have the custom domain, SSL, TLS certification installation on the same app services. So these app services are going to sit inside the app service plan, and your app service plan is going to sit in the app service environment. So let's take a look at some of the capabilities or some of the features of app services. Like, as I mentioned, it supports the multiple programming languages like .NET, .NET Core, Ruby, Java, Node.js, or PHP, or Python, and also managed production environment. So you're not going to manage anything like, installing the patches or maintaining the operating system or the installing the framework for the particular .NET Core. So it's all going to be managed by Microsoft. So you are going to utilize the underlying infrastructure which is managed by the Microsoft. And also containerized Docker, so you can host the container application. So I'm going to make another video on how to containerize the application in the Azure App Services. And also the DevOps optimization, like having the continuous integration, continuous deployment with different tools like Azure DevOps, GitHub Bitbucket, or the Docker Hub, Azure Container Registry. And also globally scale with high availability. Depending on your need, you can scale up or scale out, and you can also set up the auto scaling feature and connections to the different SaaS platforms, or if you have the on-premise data center, for example, the database, so you can still connect using the app services. And some of the security complaints, especially ISO, SOC, or PCI complaints or GDPR complaints, all that is going to be supported by the app services. And it is also supports the the templates, like some of the marketplace applications like WordPress or Joomla or Drupal. So these are all supported by the Azure App Services, and you can have the integration with Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code. So you can very well deploy your applications or manage your applications with the Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. Especially managing the Visual Studio Code is really handy, and you can install the Azure extension in the Visual Studio Code to see what is what is deployed and how it is deployed in the folder structure, file structure in the Visual Studio Code. So some of the things like API and mobile features, and you can have the car support, you can have the serverless code running. For example, the function app. Function app can also be part of the app service plan or app services. So there are a lot of things to talk about the Azure App Services. So we in the subsequent video, probably we can go more in details about the auto scaling. I would like to make another video on the auto scaling and exploring some of the features in the app service, especially monitoring and debugging kind of things. So that's all for this video. I hope you like this video. In case if you want to look at my previous videos, I'm making all these videos as part of the Azure Reference Architecture Guide. You can access the previous videos in a sequence, or if you are comfortable with some of these topics, you can directly jump into the topic and access those. So I'm updating all the details, the lab details, what I'm exactly working on with the given scenario. So one of the latest update, for example, I'm going to continue this updating this portal. What is my lab scenario? What are some of the prerequisites? What I'm going to talk about in each lab in a detailed format is covered in this website. So in case I would if you want to see my previous videos, I would always recommend to watch those videos. Thank you very much for your time watching this video.